Thank you for watching today. My name is Thomas Hood. I'm your host for Improve It. I'm joined by a good friend of mine and a very special guest, Patrick Fingles, who happens to be the CEO of Leap and Sales Pro, but also has a load of other industry experience that I'm excited to talk about today. Thanks for joining, Patrick.
Thanks for having me, Thomas.
Well, all right, buddy. So we met. It's kind of hard to to think about exactly, because we've corresponded for some time, but I guess
Yeah.
the first time that we got in front of each other was I don't know, maybe 18 months ago or so, and that was great. Getting up into your part of the country, an area I haven't spent a ton of time up in the Northeast, and that was definitely a good visit. So not to rehash all of that, but I had a load of fun. Would like to do it again sometime.
Yeah, we'd loved having you. That was at our summit. So you came and you spoke on stage and just talked about your industry experience and where you think everything was going. It was a good time.
Yeah, it definitely was. So, for those that are listening that don't know, Patrick has a very, very diverse experience in this industry, and man, I'm so thankful for your contribution. I'm thankful for much of your industry life's work that's been an influence to the companies I've been involved with, and we'll talk about that some. But just tell us a little bit about kind of about who you are. Where it all
Yeah.
started. How do you get into this home improvement area? It's not like kids grow up, right? Because I know you didn't. I know I didn't. You're thinking you're 9 or 10 years old, and you're like, man, I'd really love to be involved with roofing, or oh, I
Yeah.
would really
Yeah.
love to sell windows or whatever. So how does a young guy spend his career doing this?
Yeah, so it's funny. I got a funny story, but I remember the job I had before I got into home improvements. I was a courier and I used to run package. I'm probably 21 years old, and I used to run packages from DC, Washington, DC up to New York. So I'd leave my house at 4 p.m., go down to DC, pick up packages, take them to New York, drop them all off, and then I'd get back to my house around 9 a.m. the next morning. And I did that 3 days a week. So I do it Monday,
Oh, wow.
Wednesday, and Friday, right? So I did it 3 days a week. So it's like, you work for like 16 hours, 3 days a week. I made $653 after taxes every 2 weeks. I'll never forget it because that's the check I just lived on. And so $653, and I'd figure out what to do with that. And I had a buddy of mine was working down at a company, and he was selling windows door to door with a briefcase. And this is a company that is still out there today, and I'm very good friends with the CEO. But he was telling me, he's like, "Hey, you should come down here and sell windows. You'd be great at it." So, your friends are your best recruiters, right? He's like, "You'd be great at it." And like I was like, "Man, I got benefits, man. I got a company van, like I don't know." And he's like, "Yeah, man, come on down, man." And this was straight commission. And I finally made the plunge. 'Cause I had bit that courier job for about 4 years. I finally made the plunge, went off benefits, straight commission, no salary.
Hmm.
They gave me a window and a briefcase, man. We went door to door, man, and I just crushed it. I just crushed
It's
it. And
awesome.
I went from making $653. I think my first year I made 110,000. My second year I made 240,000. And it was on a 1099, and it was
Yep.
straight checks, baby. So I mean, if
Yep.
you imagine a young man going from 653, so about $325 a week,
Yep.
to 4,000 a week with
Oh,
no
look,
taxes.
that
Like,
there's a lot of things about that just knowing history of myself and some others, it's really exciting.
yeah,
We can unpack that a little bit, but
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's really it's kind of scary, right?
Yeah,
Because
it was
you
life
you give
changing
the
for me,
wrong
man.
person,
Yeah.
that level of income, and most of the time, good things don't happen. Do you need to scale your business? Do you need to get your products and services in front of the right customers? Maybe you need to build a new website. Maybe you need a very creative Google ad strategy or SEO built in behind your website. Well, if you need to take your business to the next level, you need to call my friend Billy with Grow Marketing in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I just did good things. I mean, the first thing I did was bought myself a BMW 540. The second thing I did was I built a house. I think my
Okay.
mom thought I was selling drugs. I swear. She was like, "What are you doing?" Like, true story. She was like, I'm like, "I'm selling windows door to door." She's
Yeah.
like, "You're
Well,
out of your
the
mind,
first
man."
the first part of that conversation sounded more like drugs than the last part, right? I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, you were a courier, huh? No.
No, I was a courier for my father. It was my father's family-owned business called Financial Courier Network. Anyway, so I worked for this company for a little bit, and then I just, I had my very good friend work there, and we decided we wanted to like strike out on our own. So I think it was in about 2003 we struck out and we started a company. Lovely, great company, still in business today. I mean, we started it and we just scaled. So, we scaled the company really, really quickly based on canvassing. We knew how to do that. And we scaled, we made errors, but we scaled to a total of 3 locations: New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia. We covered 5 states. Our peak revenue was 40 million, 40 million in revenue. We had 250 employees. And it was amazing. And so one of the biggest challenges, like all the root cause of the headaches and challenges that we had, were all associated with like our sales reps just killing us, man. Like it was all the little things, man. I mean, they would I'd hire a guy, they'd undersell the job. I'd have to take his first commission. We called it
Yeah.
below minimum. He'd have a BM, we called him, we'd have to take it. Or the job would come back and they would miss something on the contract. Like all of our woes seem to be not at production. Like even our production woes were centered around the point of sale. So like all of
No,
our woes were
absolutely.
around all of our woes were around the point of sale. And like we were hiring them in classes and kicking them in asses. I mean, we were training 10, 15 reps, every month in these training classes. And, there was high turnover, obviously, like it always is. I believe it still is. And we wanted to wait, like, it's taking us 4 weeks to train them. And I like being able to hire bartenders and guys that sold cars and, like,
Yep.
waiters and servers. Like, I didn't want to hire people with industry experience. So it was hard to, like, train them on, the basic print, not how to sell, but, like, how to measure a roof, how to measure windows, right? Not screw it up. So, like, again, more point of sale problem. So in 2012, we started working on a technology to kind of solve our problems. We had we'd never intended to like spin it out to anybody else. We were just building it to kind of solve our problems. And that product that we built internally, we called Estimate. And then eventually we called Leap. We ultimately ended up spinning that product out in around 2017, and Leap just took off. I mean, all the largest companies started using it because it was very purpose built for our specific challenges. And they call it incubated. It was incubated in a really good environment. So like by the time we launched the product, it was like fully built, like built by us for us. A lot of people say that, but no, I mean, this thing was built. We had 70 sales reps using it in the house multiple times a day. And so we just had really worked through all the kinks. So we launched the product. It's kind of a side gig. We're probably 13, 14 years in business at this point in time. And it just scaled really quickly. And that's how Leap grew to be the company it is. I sold my roofing company. Our number one product was roofing, second window siding doors. But I sold that about 4 years ago. So I did have both companies for a period of time, but it became a lot. So I sold that company, as a lot of people have done in the last 5 years. And the company's still in business today under new ownership, and they're doing a great job. And I spend for the last, really 10 years, almost all my time at Leap. And for the last 5 years, 100% of my time at Leap since I sold the company. And that's our story, man. So, we've learned a lot. The industry's changed a lot. What we built that worked for us in 2017 is a good foundation, but it no longer covers like the gamut of all the things that people need. And, I'm very
Sure.
close to the industry and I think about where things are going, like as a consumer. And so we continue to just try to evolve the product. But it's been a wonderful career for me, man. And having both sides, like, I don't know where I learned more being in the trenches, like building that home improvement company, or being on the software side and getting to work with like you and like getting to work with all my customers. Cause now I get exposure to so many more,
Sure.
just different environments. So you take all that collective practical kind of I've done it experience and bring in that big network of like working with everybody, and it's created a really good environment for me to be successful. So I'm stuck in this industry for the rest of my life. It'd be a disservice for me to go try something different. So I'm this business through and through, man. you know?
No, I mean, look, all that rings true because the reality of it is, whether you're talking about the early stages of that career to where you are now, kind of one doesn't happen without the other, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you developed a fantastic tool to implement in your own business, but it was so viable that it was something that the market needed. And you
Yeah.
mentioned, earlier just about how the industry's changed. So I mean, we're pretty close to the same age. I don't want to date either one of us, but seeing the industry go through the late '90s and the 2000s to where it is today,
Yeah.
a quarter of a century later, right? What are the what do you think are the biggest shifts in just the professional home improvement? I'm not, not to knock this guy. I used to be one. I've worked with a lot of them, and they're great guys. But I'm not talking about just, really the chuck in the truck guy out there that's, running a couple sales calls after he gets done building the deck, so he'll have a job to go to when he finishes the one he's on, right?
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
talking about the professional home improvement industry, whether that's in roofing, whether it's in sunrooms, windows, doors, solar, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Companies at scale. What
Yeah.
what in your estimation is the biggest difference, a quarter century later, now in 2026 versus
Mhm.
maybe the early 2000s?
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is like one is I think you see more companies being like I call it specialty remodelers, but the idea that you can like more effectively sell multiple products, right? Like so, you had guys that like did roofing, guys that did windows, guys that did siding, because like if you look at the install base, you don't have roofers installing windows typically, you don't have siding
Yeah,
installing. So, traditional contracting, it was more of that you had GCs that would like go out and hire a bunch of people, but you didn't have
yeah,
specialty remodelers that could do your roof, your siding, your windows, really pull that off effectively and feel like you're buying from a single company, not hiring a GC that's sending different companies out. So I would say, the ability to be able to really be that, that kind of multi-tier. And I think the biggest businesses figure out how to expand their customer base, through that. I would say, just, marketing. I mean, there's been evolution, I mean, I think marketing was very grassroots back in the day, very referral driven, canvassing driven, very call center driven. And while those practices still work today, and I actually think are kind of surging back a little bit,
yeah,
we kind of went through the wave of like Google ads, like direct mail kind of fell off. Again, still in practice, but fell
sure,
off. So, we have to be, have to understand Google, Google ads, local services ads, Bing ads. And then here comes Angie's List and, Craigslist and Home Advisors. Now we need to understand lead aggregators like Modernize. We need to
yeah,
understand those partners. So the transition to that. And then you start going through it again. And you're like, okay, well, now you're getting into new lead sources again, right? So, maybe trade shows don't work as well as they used to, like, again, that grassroots stuff. And now you're coming into, well, like TV and radio are changing. Now it's streaming,
yeah,
and terrestrial TV slowing down, but there's still a balance. Like, a lot of guys will be like, nah, man, like terrestrial TV and radio still outperform streaming, right? Because it's more of an active listenership. So, and now we're going to have to deal with AI too. So
sure,
all those kind of like a little sprinkle of like e-commerce is starting to happen, more remote sales thanks to like COVID. But like, so I would say it would be, the products that we sell and professionally being able to deliver multiple products, the marketing transition that's happened over the last decade and like how we get leads today versus how we get leads of yesterday. And then I think like back in the day, it was definitely probably, I don't want to say less boiler room because I think that's still really important to kind of like have that culture and that sales mojo. But I definitely see like a lot more people that like their sales reps at least have some sort of minimum salary, right? Maybe they have a 401k, maybe they have some benefits. You're starting to see like in order to keep up in a modern day of recruiting,
sure,
you can't like, you need to be able to offer some sort of competitive benefits package and so forth. Still very commission incentive. And there are still guys out there like they're on 1099 still, like they're
yeah,
sales reps. But
yeah,
like when I started 25 years ago, it was very common to have no salary, no benefits, straight commission on a
yeah,
1099. Like that's what you did. Um, and so I would say like the general cleanup of the business, the marketing, the multiple products, and the last thing is technology. Like when we started, like we were very buttoned up, man. We had like the dry erase boards. We do create like a job magnet. We had the file folders. Everybody got a new folder. Like we felt very professional about that. Like we ran a thing like a car dealership. Like that folder would move around the office as you went through your installation.
Oh,
I
it
think,
was a boomerang, but
yeah,
yeah, that's how you ran your business.
yeah, I think that has migrated. And I think everybody's like starting to at least get to the place where they're putting in like at least the CRM, some sort of technology. They're trying to get their contracts on DocuSign. Maybe they're doing payments through Intuit or QuickBooks or whatever. So I think the technology. So it'd be like my big four, right? That's like the Mount Rushmore of change. Marketing, general operations, multi-tier product, and technology has been like the biggest transition in the businesses, I think, as they've stood up.
What's your greatest resource in business? What's the largest challenge your organization faces? Well, I can tell you from experience, it's people. The home improvement industry is challenging. Sometimes it's hard to find the right people. It's very difficult to find people as skilled as you need them. You need a partner that can help, and that's Bricks Recruiting. Whether you need senior level management, whether you need sales reps, whether you're in building, whether you're in roofing, any element in the home improvement industry. If you need staffing, if you need leadership, you need Bricks. No, absolutely. What I see is interesting about all those. There are some things that are, that are so tested and tried and true that, maybe there's a subtle shift or a change here or there, but it's fundamentally the same, right? It's fundamentally the same in 2026 versus 2000 or 1985. It doesn't matter. Sitting at a dining room table,
Yeah.
building value and trying to earn that business. So that doesn't change. But when I look at certain things, particularly the full scope marketing, not just ads, right? I mean, because we divide that out where marketing and ads, advertising is a subset of marketing. Marketing is more high level, more all encompassing. Ads, are a little different. But what I see is interesting about that, and I think a lot of the AI and a lot of all the analytics and everything behind it, it's changing so fast the way the data companies are putting all this data out in front of people and all the analytics involved. I joke around with folks. I was like, look, marketing today is like mowing a 10-acre field with a push mower.
Yeah.
Okay. When you get done, you've got to start all over again where you started.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that is the fastest thing that is shifting. Because what works well maybe in the first quarter of your year may not work. You may not get the same performance,
Yeah.
going into the second or the third quarter. It's ever changing and shifting. So I see marketing in that, but also with a direct connection with the way the tech is changing, particularly the influence of AI.
Yeah.
Okay, and myself, one historically, I've you know been somewhat advanced in some ways and somewhat of a dinosaur in others. Like I was super slow to buy into the benefit of AI, and now, man, it's just commonplace.
Yeah.
It's a part of our world. I mean, we utilize multiple AI platforms, and I can't really imagine doing business without it. Now, I know Leap and Sales Pro are utilizing some of those things. Any kind of feedback or insight
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. I think the biggest disruption to contractors from the impact of AI, I think, not disruption, but the two biggest areas of impact. One is going to be how we get leads and how we connect with our customers, right? Like, I think that's going to materially change. Like, the number one lead source, you know what the number one lead source is still? It reigns supreme. What's the number one way a homeowner finds their contractor? What do you
Oh,
think?
I mean, it's got to be word of mouth. I
It's
would think.
referral, correct.
Yeah, sure.
And it's reign supreme. Like if we were like, you got a pyramid in Egypt, not like walk over. I'm like, hey Thomas, man, who built your pyramid? You're like, you got to get these guys to build your pyramid. Like that, it goes back since the dawn of time. And I think the reason, like, and it's so weird because like, why would you ask somebody? I mean, Google. I mean, you think Google would have just dominated? It does, like lots of Google AdWords, but it should have blown referrals out of the water. Like I'm gonna go ask my neighbors who to get a window from or get a roof or whatever products we're selling instead of just going to my phone and looking on Google search. And so when you get to the root cause of it, it's trust. because, Google, it's ads and they know it's ads. So they
Yeah.
don't trust it, right? They don't even trust review sites like Yelp and stuff. They just
No,
don't.
no.
So there's no trust there. I think AI is going to blow that out of the water. I think you are going to trust your AI agent as long as they don't screw it up. Now they can
Well,
screw it up and start putting ads in it and start letting you buy your way to the top.
yeah.
But if they keep it pure and raw, when I ask AI something, I pretty much trust it. Like I ask, I'm like, that's bulletproof. Like I
Well,
don't,
because
not
what
like
it
a Google
is
search.
it's not just pulling data from one or two sources, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a convergence of data from pretty well everywhere that data can come from, right?
Correct. And it's non-biased in its intent of, you're not buying your way to the top. I'm not being surfaced with ads and prioritization based on how much money somebody spent on my click. So
Sure.
I think like for the first time ever, like as agentic, they call it agentic style software starts to hit the marketplace, like Alexa is not agentic. She's not behaving like,
Sure.
like an AI agent yet. Like an agentic style software will be like, more like, hey, we live in this house, based on the house, like I can show you a picture of it. Like, what type of roofing shingles do you think we should get?
Sure.
Like not who should we hire? Like, what type of roofing shingles? What color do you think we should get? And it'll be like based on your region, based on your area. Here's the most common shingle. Here's the reasons it's readily available. Like, if you ever have a problem, they're making this shingle forever. So if you ever have like any issues, you can replace them, and you're not going to have mismatches. Like, oh, and I would use these underlayments. Then you ask it a follow up question of like, what contractor in the area sells that? And the contractor's like, oh, well, you can get it from this contractor or this contractor. Like, what do you think I should pay for my roof for this materials?
Yeah.
It already does it. If you use GPT or Gemini or Gronk and you go out, take a picture of your house, feed your address in, do a solid prompt, it already does it. So when it
Sure.
gets to that place, like the idea is going to be like, why get three estimates when you can give one? So
Sure.
like if you think about the research that a homeowner is going to be able to do, they're going to be like, I want this product. Like, and think about like a kitchen or something like that. Like we don't pick our products as homeowners. We don't. Like I sold hundreds of thousands of windows installed in the house, right? They those windows they weren't like perfect matches for that house. It was just we sold one window. We
Sure.
jammed it down your throat. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's the window we sold. It was a great window. We love it. We stand behind it, but we sold one window. But it might
Sure.
not be the ideal window based on your home value, based on your resale, based on
Sure.
your elements, right? Based on your price point. People are going to start to do that. Like the kitchen, I don't even know what kind of kitchen cabinets my contractor used. He said, these are good ones. I like to use this. Here's the price. I said, great. Give me them in cream, you
Yeah, I think
know?
they're made of wood, right?
Yeah, I think they're made of wood. So like think about the options now. Like if I go back and say, hey, what type of kitchen cabinet should I get for my home? Here's the Zillow link, it's priced at this value. And it'll be like, hey, you should just don't need to mess around. Get Craftmade because Craftmade's available at the Home Depot. If you ever have a problem, they're readily available in your market. 80% of the cabinets that are sold in this market are Craftmade. Like tell your contractor you want Craftmade. And like so I think some of that decisioning is going to be taken out of our hands and it's
Mhm.
going to start to be put in their hands because it's like a reseller. We're going to have to figure out, like, I want to sell my one window. I want to sell my all
Yeah.
side window. I sell Ultramax 100% of the time. Well, my leads, they don't know that going in. They just think they want windows. They're looking for me for guidance. What happens when they say, hey, I'm looking for this specific window?
So let me ask
You
you
know?
kind of a
So that's what's
follow
going
up
to disrupt it. AI. It's going
kind
to
of a
disrupt the
follow up
home
on
builders.
that, knowing what you know, okay. If you weren't in the role you are, but you're in a scaling, scaling, enterprising home improvement level business, what doesn't matter the product. How do you take that knowledge that you know about AI, where the industry's going, and how it's going to influence buying decisions, and how do you adapt your sales teams to not be number one, not be disadvantaged, but number two, to still remain to be able to be sales professionals without just becoming just another type of order taker.
Yeah. So I think it's, anything at this point in time is a hypothesis, right? It's not like nobody knows the answer of how it's going to evolve because we need
Sure.
more information, right? So we can take the information that we have and say everything Patrick just said, we know can and probably most likely will happen. We don't know when it will happen,
Sure.
and we don't know how we should like intertwine.
Your home has a beautiful covered patio. You've got this great outdoor kitchen, you have this dining area, you have a chase lounge, you've got the flat screen TV on the wall, and you use it one day a week. Why? Well, in the spring of the year, it's because of the pollen. In the summer, it's because the sun's too bright. At certain times of day, it's because of the nosy neighbor, or maybe the mosquitoes are too bad. Well, there's a company out there that can solve those problems for you, and that's Shade Doctor LLC, the only source for the exclusive X-ray product in all of the United States. Whether you're in the Southeast, whether you're in the Midwest, whether you're along the panhandle of Florida, it doesn't matter. Shade Doctor can take care of your patio.
So, look, anyway, I just saying it's a hypothesis. So, like, they could still screw AI up, so, like, nobody knows kind of when it's going to happen. But I think you have to forecast. So, one, I would say just start thinking about that social proof. Like, just start testing these theories. Like, do it for your customers. Like, what I mean by that is, like, if you ran 10 leads yesterday, start grabbing a few of them and just start seeing, like, doing the research from going to GPT, going to Gemini, going to Gronk, try different things. And just start doing the research and do it from the customer perspective. Like, hey, I live at this house, put your customer's address in. I want to get this product done. You know what I'm saying? What are the most product commons you see in this area? And so, like, use the same thing they're going to use to start to prepare for that, right? And
Okay.
so, like, you can start to see and be like, well, man, do the products that we sell and the products that we sell to our customers, do they make the most sense? Like, what percentage of the people are buying these products in this marketplace?
Yeah.
And, like, what shingle dominates here? I'm just curious, right? Like, what shade docs, what shades dominate here, right? Like, and so, like, you start like looking at that, and then you can start to understand, well, if we're selling this product, or what's our price point, so, like, oh, put that address in. Like, you can take their address, take their measurements, load it up in there, and see what AI says about what they should have paid for the project, even if you sold it. And so, like, when you start to do that stuff, I think starting to run your business based on the fact that they're not doing it now, but they are going to have that knowledge. So the first thing I would say is everybody needs to do is just start testing themselves in
But
that
yeah,
capacity. Like, if I owned a construction company, that's what I'd be doing. And if you test well, in the house, we always talked about social proof. And so social proof to us, that when I say that, I mean, when we go in the house, like, we would always show, like, cost versus value reports, or we had like a bash book where we had, like, our competitors' estimates in there, and we would
sure,
show, like, they are more expensive than us. And that's like, instead of us just telling you we're giving you a good deal, we want to show you that you're getting a good deal,
sure.
right? Well, there's no better social proof than AI now.
Yeah.
So, like, start doing it. Take your last 10 sales and then go social proof that as the homeowner. Be like, put a prompt and be like, because AI doesn't know you're not sitting there now. AI doesn't know you're selling it right now. Be like, hey, I'm selling, a roofing job to this customer at blank, 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 blank. Upload the Eagle View report that you use to it, and be like, we're looking at, GAF materials. Here's the color package, and I'm at a price point of X, and here's the name of my company. Do you think this is, what recommendations would evaluate the deal, evaluate the products that I'm using, and determine whether this seems like a viable product to use and a good bet for the homeowner, and, like, do
Sure.
that. And, like, so if you go do 10 tests and 10 times you like the result, I would encourage your sales reps to start doing that in the house. Like, they
Yeah.
don't have to do it live in front of the homeowner. They could do the prompt, like, in advance, like, while they're measuring or while they're writing something up. They could do the prompt. But, like, there's going to be no better social proof than that AI. And so, like, you can
Well,
use that right now to come back to the homeowner and be like, look, you guys use ChatGPT? Okay, great. Look, I put it in GPT. Look what it says. Like,
yeah.
that's a great product. That's a great company with a great reputation. Definitely somebody you should consider hiring. The pricing seems fair. It's right down the middle. Like, and so you can use that to sell deals. So I wish I had AI when I was in the house, because I would use it to validate what I was telling the customer. Now, if you do that 10 times and, like, 8 out of 10 times you're not liking what you see, then
Yeah.
that's where you have to start thinking about transforming the business. Be like,
Well,
I think
and
that window's overkill. I think those shades are overkill. Like, I know those products aren't typically used in this region. That price is way too high. Like whatever it starts to give, well, now you have time. You have time to start thinking about how you transform your business, you know?
I think historically, probably one of the biggest challenges for people doing that is sometimes two things. I think sometimes we're a little too close to it, and what that does is that puts a roadblock for us to be as objective as we need to be. So, they say, well, we'll push that aside. We'll do it later. We'll do it later. Well, on most things like this, you need to get out on the front of that wave, right? So,
Yeah.
if you're in the industry today and you're mid scale, you're at scale, you're enterprising, wherever that is, but if you want to be better tomorrow, as everybody should, you have to get a handle on this sort of thing, or you're going to be late, and you're going to be late. You're going to be last to market, and you're going to be disadvantaged because your competition is already going to be there. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's a huge challenge. But sometimes, man, we are so deep in what we're doing, we lose the objectivity because we're so close to it, and we can't see what we should be doing because we're right in the middle of what we are doing. Right? Do
Yeah.
you do you see sometimes some challenges with that? Not only where you are now, but in as a former contractor. I mean,
Yeah.
does that make sense? I guess what I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain.
it makes a lot of sense, especially if what you're doing is working. Like, it's like, nah, we still we got our canvassers out there, we got our, we got our call centers going, we got our TV ads, they still work for us. We're still doing print. Like those things working is not the same as them not working at some point in time. So I'm not saying to
Sure.
abandon those things. I'm saying to just start to look at, the possibilities. And it's like I think everybody, like I use the word R&D. But like I think everybody has time for a little R&D in their business, whether it's just the owner doing it or whether it's the sales leaders. Like just carve out like, a day a month, where it's like you guys just like, you and like your sales leader or whoever it is, like come together in the office, order a bunch of food and just start toying around with like things like I just said. Like you can go into
Sure.
AI right now and say, hey, how do we prompt how we're preparing our business for AI? Like give us a questionnaire to fill out, right? And just start doing stuff like throw some estimates on the table, throw them in AI, see what it thinks. Like just start to like, research your products, like use it to evaluate your business from that unbiased situation. Your competitors, take your website and your competitor's website, throw it in there, be like, hey, is our website as good as our competitor's website? Like, yada, yada, yada. And so, I think like just taking a little time to carve it out, but not destroying the business, doing it, I think is good. I'd also say that I have a saying that it kind of goes against what I think most people say, and it's like change is bad. And like
Yeah.
so, I don't think change is good. I mean, I wouldn't put it in the context of good. I think change is necessary, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
different than good. Like, if you never have to change a thing, how great is that as a business?
You need to take your outdoor living to the next level. You want a different, unique structure that not everyone has. You need to check out a louvered roof pergola, custom built by Innovative Outdoor in Fort Worth, Texas. So, regardless of whether you have an existing covered patio attached to your home, maybe you've got that structure by your pool, maybe you've got that structure in a great outdoor living area that you need more coverage and protection from the sun above. Check out a louvered roof pergola from Innovative Outdoor. Call my friend Andy, and he will take care of you. We're not in not that we have upper echelon podcast studio, but we're not there today because at 9:45, the power goes out in our office, and look across the street and the utility company's changing out poles and transformers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we put a notice on the door a few days ago. It's going to be out all day."
Yeah, yeah. We're
So we're
we're we're we're we're we're like we're like in the house and the kid just threw up on the floor, man. That's what's happening,
but
right?
the
So
thing
like,
about it goes with exactly what we're talking about. We're
yeah,
talking about pivots and adapting, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's change and adaptation is challenging, and it's not always fun, but it's necessary.
Yeah, so I think like change is necessary. I don't think it's good or bad. Sometimes I think it's bad. Like Chick-fil-A don't want to change that chicken sandwich.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And if they changed it, their customers wouldn't be like, "Oh, this change is good." Like when you can build something like that's sustainable and lasts forever, and you don't have to make changes to it. Like Coca-Cola ain't changing the recipe. Matter of fact, they tried and it was a
And it didn't
disaster.
work.
Right? So it's like, Campbell soup, Coca-Cola, like just, so imagine, like, I think change happens a lot. So I think we try to put the context of good on it. There's nothing good about it. The best thing is like no change. I wish my baby could stay small forever. I wish I could be in a great moment forever. I wish Coke never changes their recipe again. And like, I wish the marketing that I was doing today would just continue to work forever
Sure.
so I wouldn't have to change my business. Now, when change is required, you got to lean into it. So I think like to answer your question of like, yeah, I mean, when is it required? Because it's not necessary right at this point, but you're either going to change on your heels or you're going to change on your toes. So I think it's just like it's like fighting that balance. And I think like I always kind of prescribe to the idea of like you want to move at the appropriate pace. I think people try to move too fast, and I think some people try to move too slow. For the first time ever, I'm saying like I don't think you can move too fast. I think you can only move too slow.
Sure.
I think you
Well,
can only move too slow. I think there's two sides to this
no, I
coin.
agree. I
I
agree.
don't care if you
And
move too fast
everybody,
and it costs you. If it saves you in the long run, then it was the right decision. If you move too slow
sure.
and it costs you, you might not be able to recover.
Sure. And everybody's perspective on change is different, whether it's on the customer side, the company side, somewhere in the middle. A great example, and I just bring this up because you mentioned it. Sometimes change is not embraced and it's avoided because you just don't understand it. You don't like it. Maybe you don't see the benefit from your perspective. Great example. I mean, you remember like pre-COVID, right? You go through Chick-fil-A, it's a normal process. You talk to the speaker, you get to the window, you pay them, you get your food, you're out. It seemed to be working great. Post COVID, you got people standing in the parking lots with iPads and they got these awnings over them and all this. You're like, what was wrong with the way it was before? Right. So,
Yeah.
I saw that and, I officially, and most those that really, really know me, and you probably know enough about me, you're like, yeah, that fits. I became a grumpy old man like 20 years before I really should be a grumpy old man. Right.
Yeah.
And so when that change first hit, I'm like, come on, guys. I mean, why do you have this, 19-year-old kid standing out in the rain with an iPad and an awning over him? What was wrong with it the way it was before? Right.
Yeah.
But now, fast forward, 5 years, I'm like, hey, this is faster, it's better, it's more efficient, and I've
Yeah.
got my chicken sandwich faster. So this is good.
Yeah.
So my whole point to that is sometimes the front end of change we run from because we just don't understand it. We don't see the end goal in sight, right?
Yeah.
And whether that's as a consumer or inside a company. Like
Yeah.
right now we have all types of people that are fighting against some new software we brought in that gives us a greater view on the business, right? And we've got challenges with that. Some of them are great producers, some of them can be great producers, but they aren't yet. But when I break those down, that it's still fighting against change, and that's something that just I think is just human nature that we have to
It
navigate through.
it is. And I think the best way to navigate with it is just telling those stories. Like the distinction for me that like we're making the change because it's required and it's not good, like telling my people this change is not good, not in the context of the result of the change won't be good, but the fact that we have to disrupt ourselves and do something differently. Man, there's nothing good about that. Learning something new or changing the way we've done it forever. Yeah, that all sucks. So I think sometimes just from a leadership standpoint, the acknowledgement of that the change sucks is good. Like it's okay because that gives everybody in the context early of like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, so now we're doing it because we have to. So it's like it's like if you're doing something because you have to, or you're doing it because somebody chose to and they didn't ask your opinion, like
yeah,
that's like two different things. So, and it just starts with the problem. Chick-fil-A is such a successful organization because they saw the writing on the wall, man. I don't like when you would go to Chick-fil-A, man, like they would get you through that line quick. Before they made the changes, but like the cars were backed up out onto the road. They were like,
yep.
we need to triple the lane capacity. We got to get people
Mhm.
in here faster, and their brand was like steadily growing in new markets where they were building new Chick-fil-A's,
Sure.
right? So like They're like, man, we have this problem right now. This thing is going to be in 5 years from now, we're going to have a really poor customer experience. So how are
Yep.
we going to do it within the existing footprint?
Yep.
So like, dude, what they did? Like the window, like they cut the windows out now and they have the door. So
Yeah.
multiple people can bring food out the
That's
doors,
right.
right? They got all the spots where you can pick it up. We need people ordering on the app. What we're not going to change is the real estate. So like that's
Sure.
making the decision of being like, maybe I don't want to change what we're selling. Like I'm going to continue to be a roofer. I'm going to continue to be a shade doctor. I'm going to continue to be a window world. I'm going to continue to be these things that I want to be. However, we need to move more capacity. For years, we sold the exact same window, no matter what market we were in. People, after doing research ourselves, we should be selling about 10 different windows. So how can we accommodate that, right?
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then we're going to start to be in there justifying, and we're not going to be justifying our window just with a homeowner. We're going to be justifying it against the AI system that they're
Sure.
using for every decision they make. That's saying, don't buy that window, buy this one. So,
But
like,
the
how do we
thing
fix
is, it's
that?
such an all-encompassing conversation because, like with most things, there's a fine line, right? You can go
Yeah,
too far, right? From a company that wants to scale, grow, maybe add a new product. Well, there's a fine line between being a specialist and then being that generalist to where you're doing so many things, you're not doing anything well,
yeah,
right? So really understanding your organization, your people, and what your bandwidth is has to dictate where that line is that you don't go beyond, or
yeah,
you just become somebody else that offers a widget.
yeah. I would say, like, I'm telling you, the number one thing, like, I'm telling you, I'm curious. Like, if you do it, like, take your last 15 sales, throw them in there, and just see if it's like, hey, homeowner made a good decision.
Yeah.
you know, and just test it internally and see. I mean, I think that's the number one thing people can do. I think that'll really shape the preparation for how AI will impact our businesses as we go forward.
Well,
You know,
that's really cool. Well, Patrick, look, I don't want to take a whole lot more of your time. It's been great having a conversation with you. We do this. It's funny when I was talking to you earlier. I was like, well, it's just basically going to be the same conversation we have anyway, right? We do this
yeah,
maybe once a month or so, and we
yeah.
bounce things around. But we definitely need to do this more often. It's always a pleasure talking with you. I will say, you know, nothing scripted. It's just you and I talking and kind of going where the conversation goes, which is fun. And but I'm so thankful for what your organization does for us, and thankful for conversations like this. I always learn a lot, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for having me and letting me share. Thanks to your listeners.